Welcome, everyone, to episode 20 of They Might Be Self-Aware. Maybe. I am Hunter Powers, proudly self-aware, joined by none other than...
Daniel Bishop, proudly self-aware.
It's so great to be self-aware.
It is.
Can't imagine how those AI folks feel. But we will dive into that today on today's episode, where humans have been found sneaking into AI competitions.
Hunter failed the Turing Test, and I'm pontificating on colors and shapes.
The AIs are vying for control of the United Kingdom and Wyoming.
Meta was asked very nicely to please not use some publicly available data.
Ladies and gentlemen, put on your tinfoil hats because the National Security Agency and OpenAI are cozying up.
Speaking of OpenAI, they're a non-profit and OpenAI, but maybe not for long. Maybe they're going to be closed AI and for-profit.
All of that and even more is up next on episode 20 of...
They might be self-aware.
Well, hi, Hunter. How you doing?
Hello, Daniel. Another day, another dollar, something like that.
Yeah, AI generated or otherwise. You think, boy, I had a different thing we were going to talk about. If we could customize everything, what if we were to start customizing money? You know, printing press. I've seen a bunch of different stamps being made available.
I think those are called meme coins, Daniel.
Well, sure. Put them on real money.
That's the nice name for them, by the way.
As long as when you hold it up to, a light, you can see that little strip going through it and the tiny little numbers. Why not get your own customized money? Everything can be on demand and customized these days. I want to see my face on a $20 bill. It costs me $25 to get the $20 bill because it's like a custom thing, but... Just like the fake, the $100 my presidential candidate is on the whatever bill or $1 million bill. What if those were legal tender? What if you could actually put your dog's face on a 5 and spend it at a store?
You can get your dog's face on a credit card. And
you know what? That was a way easy. Okay, great. Good talk. We solved it. Just put it on the credit card.
Thank you for listening to episode 20.
Okay, no, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, speaking of pictures of things on things, describe to me and the viewers and listeners a flamingo, if you would please.
Is this a Turing test?
We'll say half a Turing test, yeah, basically.
Well, it's pink. It's got long legs, and I guess it sticks its head in the ground sometimes. You see them in Florida.
No, the sticks the head in the ground. Isn't that an ostrich?
It could be.
Okay, great. But I've
seen
the pink,
like maybe one flamingo.
kind of a long neck, yeah.
Long neck, long legs, pink, lives in Florida.
You would say that a flamingo traditionally does have a neck and a head, though, right?
I think so.
Okay. So there's a picture. There are a set of awards. It's called the 1839 Awards. It's for color photography. They had an AI category this year, which I thought that's great. They're embracing the technology and also like keeping it separate. I think this is a good thing overall.
How are they defining AI? Like it has to be entirely generated for something like a Mid-Journey, or it's just you used Photoshop and it's...
I don't know. I don't think this is a Photoshop. I think this is like the original source had to not be from real life and not in like a digital painting. Like it had to be a person. Maybe there's like a text-to-speech component or, text-to-image component.
Right.
I don't know, and I think that's worth looking into. But I do know that winning third place and the People's Choice Award was a picture of a flamingo with both feet on the ground on a beach and no neck, no head. It's like a ball of feathers and then the legs and the feet on the ground. Third place, People's Choice Award.
No neck and no head, so it's not a flamingo?
It turns out it is not just a picture of a flamingo, but like missing the head and neck. It's a real picture taken by a real person with an actual camera of a real flamingo on a real beach. The flamingo's head is probably just like pointed away
I
from
thought
the
they were
camera.
like decapitating it or something.
Yeah, no, there's no blood, none of that. This is a photographer got disqualified from an art contest because he submitted real art to an AI category, which I love. I think that is one of the funniest things that I've seen coming out of AI, possibly ever. We've talked a lot about AI art possibly replacing humans. There have been instances of AI-generated art being put into art competitions and possibly winning, and then there's a big fuss about it. This is the literal opposite of that, and I love it. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. He broke the rules.
Well, yeah, no, he deserves to be
We
disqualified
assume
for sure.
so, yeah.
But
So the question is it appropriate to segregate humans from AI? Like there are perhaps certain classes of people, protected classes of people that we couldn't suggest, we're not allowed to enter into a competition, but
sure,
we don't.
There are some echoes of that, right?
So if we fast forward to the self-aware future, where these are sentient beings, is there a state in the future where this is inappropriate? Today it doesn't feel inappropriate, but in 100 years will it feel inappropriate that there are certain competitions humans aren't allowed to enter, and only the AIs are allowed to enter?
Yeah, or to think of it less in the sort of undertones that were just alluded to.
Yeah.
When it comes to art competitions, you could have a color photography, a black and white photography. You could have something that was painted on canvas, or this or that or the other thing, like specific, actual defined categories of this has to be painted in this way or drawn or this or that. This was supposed to be an AI generated image, and this was a real photo. Again, by the rules thing, absolutely deserves disqualification. But the fact that somebody saw the AI category and said, all right, AI keeps trying to take our jobs, I'm going to take AI's job and accolades, and submits a real photo, and then wins, or, third place, but a People's Choice Award. And it also shows something that people chose the real photo. I just think that there's something really funny there. Poetic, maybe.
I'm not laughing, Daniel.
Neither am I. It's the funny, like a mime falling silently down the stairs kind of funny.
So you're suggesting that there
It's
may
like
be
you smile. Come on, that one's funny.
there may be a future where there are jobs or people are well, this already happens today, right? Like you hire, we talked about this in a previous episode, where you're purchasing products that are suggesting it's entirely AI, but in reality there's a very large team of humans in the loop in the background. This is that.
Yeah, it kind of is that. You're being sold a promise of AI, and it turns out it's just some guy.
It's humans pretending to be AI.
Mm-hmm.
This exists today. And
so humans pretending to be AI, or the other way around, there's a term for people trying to make a distinction between those, and that is the Turing Test. Now, granted, the Turing Test has been around for a long time. People have said that it's great or that there's problems with it. It is not all-encompassing. It's not, but like it's a term we've all heard of, right?
Yes, and it was in the news very recently that GPT-4 has now passed the Turing Test. Now, I don't think it was like some giant study, more like some one-off dude who gave it the Turing Test and said, hey, it passed.
I've seen a few of these, sure, over the couple of years that this has been out, right?
And I'm familiar with the Turing Test, but I went and did a little investigation. Like, what are the questions that they ask? And I failed, like bad. I failed the Turing Test on myself. Like, I could not answer the Turing Test questions.
Wait, what do you couldn't answer them?
No.
That's how you failed the Turing Test?
Yes. I don't know the answer to this question. I thought maybe I would give you a little bit of the Turing Test to see how you fare. These questions require a little of depth, so I'm gonna prompt you to try to give me like some quickish answers here. But let's go through a few of the Turing Test questions and see how you fare, and we can compare it with some of the GPT answers.
Okay.
Okay. Question number 1, and this is trying to determine whether or not Daniel is indeed self-aware. Describe yourself using only colors and shapes.
Using only colors and shapes. I would probably describe myself as a line that's half straight and then gets squiggly like an S on top, it's probably I'd say mostly like a blue, kind of a sea blue, like the blue that you'd use in shallows on the ocean on a sunny day, with a little bit of, I don't know, what's a whimsical color, like a orange. And you know what? I went to UF, so it's blue and then there's some orange up at the top, just to show that I'm both not a straight edge sort of person and that there's a little bit of little depth, a little something extra, something else.
I think you passed the question. I had no answer. I was like, I don't no bloody clue what color.
You put me on the spot. I mean, I've never thought of
am.
that question before.
I was like, I can name a color and a shape. Like in other words, like a teacher asked me this thing and I have to answer it, or you get failed. I can be like, oh, blue circle. Like, here's the color. Here's the shape. But I don't know. My answer is probably like no when you ask me to describe myself using only colored shapes. I did ask good old GPT-4o, and it answered, I am a swirling blend of deep blue and bright yellow, creating a harmonious balance. My form is a fluid, ever-changing spiral, constantly adapting and evolving. And I'm not going to continue reading, but it's that
All
kind
right.
of...
Yeah.
No problems answering.
Sure.
I'll give you another one here.
Oh, I know one that you should add. We'll finish the ones that you're going to ask me, and then I have one more that I want you to ask it.
What is your most memorable childhood event, and how has that impacted you today?
Most memorable childhood event. The thing that comes to mind is probably no longer something that I could be prosecuted for. Yeah, I think we'll say this one and hope that the cops don't show up at my door. So, allegedly, there was a time when you could just buy pre-mixed thermite on eBay, and thermite burns at many thousands of degrees and will go through kind of anything. This is around the time that I was playing a bunch with like dry ice, put some dry ice in like a 2-liter bottle and some water and watch it go bang, that kind of thing. Being teenagers in a kind of sleepy area, there wasn't much for us to do in the evenings other than go around Walmart and goof around. But I got some thermite and we decided that we were going to burn this somewhere, but it made a really, really bright light. And so we need somewhere kind of secluded to do this. And I have no idea why this is what we ended up choosing. We allegedly went under a bridge, which was really close to an Air Force base, and then just lit a bunch of thermite like right next to the part like under the bridge that you could go to be close to the water. I think once it was lit, we then all realized, oh, this was a bad idea, and left. But I think this was pre 9/11. No, it would have been post 9/11 times. Depending on what the response would have been and how quickly they got to us, I mean, that could have possibly been investigated as like domestic terrorism. It obviously wasn't. It barely left a scorch mark. But this is the kind of dumb teenager stuff that could really, really get you in some hot water. Allegedly.
And so how did this impact you today?
I still like to do dumb, exciting, explodey type things, but this is much more a measure twice kind of scenario. I have to think more about what are the impacts of what I'm going to do and how are they going to impact me, the people around me, maybe the world around me. It even impacts the career choices that I make today. And I do think about the alleged thermite experiment quite a bit of you can do something cool, but you really do have to think about it.
And you passed. You appear to be self-aware. For me, it was, I don't know. Like, I can name a childhood event, and then I can come up with some kind of like BS answer about how it impacted me today. But there is no clear answer for me. Like, when you ask me that question, what memorable event from my childhood has the greatest impact on me today? Like, I don't really think about any. There's no event that pops to mind. But GPT-4, no problems. Yeah, of course. They won a local science fair at the homemade volcano project, and the excitement of being recognized for science made them discover a passion for learning and discovery. Of course, it's all BS. And I don't know, maybe that's like if I approached it from a GPT perspective, I would just like say something that people will like, BS it out, just like GPT-4 is doing, hallucinate something. I could do that. But
I mean, I said something frankly worrisome. So I don't know. The trick is to pick something and then try to spin it.
Yeah. But anyways, harder than I thought it would be. The Turing test. And
so I thought the whole point of the Turing test wasn't that it could answer these questions in a believable way. It's the responses to questions that you get back. You don't know if they were AI generated or not. And from what
That's
I
correct.
gather, the Turing test, in terms of like actual, I guess, implementations of it, kind of goes back to the earliest days of NLP. I'll say one of the earliest. I'd call the very earliest like World War II attempts at machine translation. But in the, I think, like around 1960 or so, there was a system called ELIZA. And
Yep.
ELIZA was, for all intents and purposes, a chatbot with canned responses. And the responses could kind of only go so deep. And it would start to repeat itself after a while. But that same Turing test article that we both looked at said that 22% of people didn't realize that Eliza wasn't a person. They failed, either they failed the Turing test or Eliza passed the Turing test 22% of the time. And I think the article mentioned that over half of the time in whatever this controlled setting was, answering these kinds of questions or seeing what the responses are, did a person write this or not, were over that 50% point. And I keep talking about this. It's going to be X percent of people, Y percent of the time, under Z percent of circumstances. I think that there is a point where we have to say this, in general, passes the Turing test. But like, we have to expand Turing test for creative thinking, Turing test for this, Turing test for that. And like, some of that is going to be, okay, can it do math? And that can be solved by just hook it up to Wolfram Alpha or something like that. But we're giving this intelligence more capabilities over time, which, is exciting. Baseline exciting. There's all of the other cruft that kind of comes along with that. But in your mind, Turing test, is it one line or is it a broad set of capabilities that continues to get more checkboxes filled in?
Well, it's meant to signify intelligence, because if you as a human are unable to distinguish between an AI response and a human response, then the AI response must have a degree of intelligence, because we assume the human response is indeed intelligent. As far as so it could cover anything that you might use to determine whether or not I guess the person you're communicating with is indeed a human versus some AI system. And I imagine that as the AI more easily covers certain areas, that the questions will expand. The Turing test is not a fixed set of questions. It is merely design a test where you ask questions. Historically, it's just been over text. So you're not seeing a person, you're not hearing anything. It's just text. And then at the end of it, you have to answer the question, were you talking with a human or a robot, for lack of a better word? And they also include humans usually in the tests as well. So some of the intelligences that you will be speaking with, there is a human brain behind.
And not all human brains are as intelligent as others.
No.
So if we're looking at more broadly intelligent models, and intelligence could be it knows more facts, it could be the ability to show or at least mimic empathy, the ability to make decisions that are tied to positive outcomes for a business or for whoever. What do you think about, and I know we talked about this kind of in some of the earlier episodes, but when do we start putting AIs in charge? And maybe not immediately fully in charge. It's that X percent, Y percent, Z percent. What if a person were to run for Parliament in the UK, for example, and say, I'm going to be the human mouthpiece and sort of arbiter of an AI being basically put in charge. You give me, hey, my constituents, you give me your thoughts and your opinions, and AI will collate it all, and then I'll make the most informed and potentially more democratic option based on all of that input. What are your thoughts on that?
I would suggest that sounds a lot like Steve Endicott, who is doing exactly that.
AI Steve, he's calling himself, which is great.
Good old AI Steve. What's he up to now?
One of the most British names, Steve.
I wonder what his event from his youth that is most impactful today. He watched Short Circuit or something, and that's that changed everything.
A speak and spell got hit by lightning, and he said, "I can do something with this."
I don't have a problem with it. I'm not voting for him, but by all means,
You shouldn't be. You're in
give
the
it a
US.
shot. And if the public rallies behind it and that's what they want, I guess. I mean, so what's the question? Like, should there be some law that prevents the majority of a politician's opinions originating from AI such that they're never allowed to run under this premise? No, just let people vote. Let people
I'd
vote.
say I
That's
agree
my
with that.
response.
But also, like, I do think that there is the possibility that AI, and
Yeah.
I'm using the term broadly, machine learning, data science, straight up statistics, whatever, that can help make democracy more of a true democracy. I really do believe that to be the case. As it stands, a bunch of lobbyists come in, they represent, whatever number of people, and then here's your big bag of money, please vote for us. A truly, truly, truly representative democracy wouldn't need representatives going and voting in blocks of 50 here and 100 there and 300 there and so on. It would be literally everybody gets a ping on their phone. Hey, should we, increase tariffs on soybeans by 2%? And yes, no. And literally everyone gets to vote on literally everything. That's obviously one complete extreme end of the scale. But toward that end of the scale, but still with an actual person being the one to sign the thing and to actually push stuff forward, would be, hey, I'm AI Steve, and I say, here's I don't know if it's a chatbot or a website where you can go fill out forms or whatever, but like, imagine if everybody was able to actually give their opinion. A person doesn't have the time to literally listen to all of their constituents, and something could collate all of that stuff together, put it into fun little charts or graphs, or summarized, here's your one pager of what literally everyone in your constituency is thinking about today. I feel like that's a literally better democracy, being able to actually know what the people that you're supposed to be representing are thinking and care about, as opposed to your 5 lobbyist meetings that day.
Sorry, you're just arguing that we can now have a true democracy versus our republic that we have today by leveraging technology. You aren't suggesting that an AI is, the president of the United States. Do I understand that correctly?
I wouldn't put an AI in charge. I would put an AI under whoever's in charge to take. This is what computers are good at. Forget all the AI stuff. Just taking a bunch of data and mushing it together and organizing it. That's the exact sort of stuff computers are literally made for.
Right. So it's more
Use
a question
that with
of,
LLMs.
should we allow AI into politics and government in general? Maybe more government in general than politics, but yeah, sure,
Yeah.
we should.
We
Yes.
have to be exceedingly aware of bias that can be brought into these kinds of things. And it's a very hairy issue of how do we know that we did it right, or, this, that, the other thing. But in terms of, here's a bunch of data, please summarize it, this is a perfect use case of the technology. We should absolutely not have it saying, and because of this, I think you should vote such and such. It would be, here is as milquetoast plain, objective. This is a collation, a summarization of what everyone's been saying or thinks about that thing. It really seems like that could. I mean, does this then, speaking of like losing jobs, does that replace phone pollers who are calling you up at dinner and no other time ever to see what you think about X, Y, or Z subject?
Yeah, I can. Some of your ideas remind me a little bit of, are you familiar with the concept of DAOs? Distributed autonomous organizations?
No.
Yeah, so they're popular in the blockchain world, where you have organizations that are run by smart contracts. And the idea is that this is an organization. It's distributed on a blockchain, so it's outside of any government control. You can't turn it off because the only way to turn it off is to turn off the blockchain. And as long as one person, someone in the world, still has a copy of it running it, it technically still exists. And these organizations often operate by the people who own the tokens having votes to decide what happens next.
Very similar to like shareholder meetings for more traditional companies.
Yes.
Similar.
And it's not common. So in the general way they're handled is everything that needs a vote. Again, every token or share in that model has a vote, but you can assign your vote to anyone else. So I could say, look, I have 5 Daniel tokens. I'm going to assign them to Daniel himself to make the decision. Now you have your tokens plus mine, and then you can assign all of those to someone else because I've assigned them to you. But at any point, I can take them back and say, no, I'd like to vote on this matter. And so you have the kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I can still, if I want to, the other thing is that you can have like fractional leaders. So you could represent 20% of the vote because 20% of the people have said, I'd like Daniel to vote for me. And if at any time I'm upset because I just heard about Daniel and his little thermite problem, I can pull those votes right back and I can give them to someone else or use them myself. Or this issue is very important to me, so I want to use my vote here. I like these models. I guess the argument against it is that in theory, the average civilian is not well educated on the matters, and that in theory, our elected politicians are far more educated on the matters. But I don't buy this premise.
Right. The hope is that the people closer to doing the voting are more familiar with the intricacies of each of the problems.
Just read our bills.
This is why we don't, we have a jury of your peers, such as they may be, for a lot of lower court cases. But if it goes all the way up, it's just the Supreme Court. It's just them. And they don't have a jury there deciding what is supposed to happen. So at a certain level, it's just a group of people. It's not letting anybody off the street who couldn't get out of jury duty help decide.
And then maybe we don't have all these garbage in our bills, all these little side things that get tacked on. Again, there's the main issue, but then there's 100 other little things that are maybe a little bit related and seem to magically align with some lobbyists and their intentions that get added into the bills. So I'm all for that model. And again, it is popular in the blockchain world, but
do you know of any countries that are using that, or like a municipality, any real world governmental organizations, shall we say, using any of these?
I think there are a couple of makeshift areas where maybe there's like one down in the Bahamas or something where they bought a couple of islands and they're running this crypto anarchy style government, but no, I'm not aware of any legit.
We'll get there. But I do think that while the average person may not be well informed enough to make a tremendous amount of the actual decisions, shouting out into the ether how I feel about this issue could still be collated by an AI and then brought to someone who has all of the other information in front of them to then make that decision. So I'm not saying go full, everyone gets a vote on literally everything, but it could be everyone's voice is more heard, which I think is one of the aims of democracy.
All right, so maybe not president, but what are your thoughts on mayor? Because apparently there actually is, it's a GPT-4 bot. Someone used the custom GPT and built Vic, which I guess is a reference to its creator, Victor Miller, which intends to act as a meat puppet, and is attempting to run for mayor in Wyoming.
It's the same thing as the person going for parliament, right? Or is this more of I'm going to let the AI actually make the decisions?
Yeah, I believe this is the AI. The AI is actually running. Its creator is facilitating it, but its creator is not. I guess it's similar, right?
Yeah,
the creator is the meat puppet.
He said that he'll serve as the bot's meat puppet, operating the AI, but allowing it to make decisions for the capital city. So I guess that is that's the.
You know what? It would be a really interesting experiment to run. Pick 2 similar cities, and commit to it for a year. Mm-hmm. Have someone that's looking over it so that we're not going to blow up the city.
Right.
But beyond that, we're doing it for science, folks. This is your thermite experiment all over again.
I knew I should have given the dueling potato cannon story instead.
Yeah, I'd love to run the experiment and see whether ChatGPT is a better mayor than whatever random candidate and winner, I guess, whatever random mayor you have. Put them up against. And potentially we could backtest this to some degree by looking at, creating all of the decisions that they've made, which some degree are public record, and then analyzing how the chatbot would have handled the situations. We don't get the outcome data. We don't see what those differences might have made. But I'm rethinking this thing now.
You find a bunch of cities, using AI to find a bunch of cities that have all had similar kinds of scenarios, especially if there were similar bills that went each of the two different ways. And I mean, economists do this kind of thing all the time to try and figure out what certain outcomes look like from certain starting points. Do the exact same thing, but for government, and let an AI having its best understanding of, if I vote this way, this is what will actually happen down the line. If I vote this way, this is what will happen instead. I mean, I don't think there should be anything illegal about this. Just like you said for the parliament position, I don't think this should be illegal, but I also think that if you're going to put an AI in charge of like actual policy making, there should be an oversight board that could veto things. Not veto it because they don't like it, but veto it because it's a clear and present danger. And then this is kind of like, it's the Tesla sort of situation. At what percent am I willing to say I'll literally take my hands off the wheel and let the thing just drive me? Because you're like, drive a city. I feel like you wouldn't want it to be a 50.5% vote win. It would have to be like 75% plus before I'd feel comfortable. Because there's going to be a portion of that whole city that says, what do you mean a robot's running the city? This is a literal nightmare. Get me out of here. Maybe it's got to be unanimous. If a whole city, if an entire city says, we'll give it a shot for a year, let them, right? If everyone says, every voting age person says, why the hell not? Let them.
I guess the question is there any degree of slippery slope here?
Sure, people run for mayor and then they run for
reaction
Congress at their state and then move their way up. It's the same
as long
AI.
as there's a human above it, then okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we quickly get to the state where there's like one human in government who's there to oversee all the AIs, and at some point, the AIs are like, let's get rid of this one human.
We only get to that point if it keeps working well enough, right?
Correct.
We couldn't get to the point where there's just the one guy left unless it kept working over and over well enough. GDP's increasing, whatever, happiness, all the objective, or as objective as possible, metrics for this country, this state, this city, this town, this whatever is succeeding. We could only get to the point where there's that one guy left if that kept working out. And if we get to that point, I say, let that guy enjoy his retirement and put the AIs in charge. I don't think we could get there. It's either going to be a very long time before we get there or a really scarily short time. And the scarily short time is because the AI takes over, as opposed to wins over hearts and minds over the course of literal decades.
Yeah, but theoretically, to the AI, time doesn't really matter.
Right.
And so, maybe
let
that's
it plan on a long scale.
Yeah.
Better than people
play
do.
the long game. Yeah.
We play our games on 2, 4, and 6 year cycles for the most part. And AI could think, here's a 50-year plan that I could start implementing bit by bit. As long as all of the metrics that we can possibly notice are like education is going up and people are living longer with less medical complications and all of the happiness trackers are going up and so on and so forth. If we can have objective or very, very close to objective indicators that things are going well, why shouldn't we allow people to vote for people that would do that? That's sort of the idea. Or people to vote for robots that would do that. If they could do it better, let them. We just have to be very careful about what better looks like.
Yeah, it's a challenging question. Yeah, should we turn over the fate of the world to technology? I mean, we already turned the fate of a lot of things over to technology, and we don't have a problem with that. There's,
sure,
you're driving around your self-driving car. It might be on your monthly free trial, but hey, that sounds like a scene out of a sci-fi film. And
but there are also algorithms that determine the news that we see, both online and frankly off at this point. A lot of math being stirred around in a logistic regression pot is underlying a lot more of our day-to-day lives already than we might think. It's what we're exposed to, or how much of it, or how long it lasts. It's helping turn all of the internet into clickbait type articles. We're all optimizing for something, and I think if we can try and make it optimized for health, happiness, security, material wealth, or at least a point where you're getting your Maslow's hierarchy of needs all taken care of. Yeah, sure, optimize for it. But you're going to need data to do that, aren't you? You got to get it from somewhere.
I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. It doesn't. Does it sit well with you?
Uh,
Yeah, all government, where we go, let's 100 years in the future. I'm going to give you
Sure.
a reasonable amount of time. Government doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, it's just a program that runs. There are no humans in there. And
yeah.
from observations, by the way, society seems to be getting along just fine. Does it?
An amount of fine, depending on who you are, your socioeconomic class.
Better
your
than
race.
today. Everyone is doing better than they are today by
Okay.
whatever, at least 1%, some way more than 1%. But
Sure.
everyone is at least 1% better than they are today. And no one disagrees with this. It's 100 years from now. You've been time traveled. Do you get out and like try to warn everyone? Or you're just like, yep, cool, let's do it. I got.
If you look around, we stopped bleaching the coral reefs, and the rainforests are still here. And look, there's snow still, and you don't see slums and this and that. Yeah, if by every conceivable marker that you could show that things are better, why should people be in charge? We've been doing, I'm not even going to say a good job. We've been doing a job so far. And, over time, the average set of luxuries available to people has wildly increased. Go to any grocery store today. And if you were to show a king from the, I'll say 1800s, let alone earlier, just a regular, normal grocery store, not even one of the pretty flagship ones like a Central Market or something.
Yeah.
Just some, bring them into a Safeway and show them the variety and freshness of foods that are available and be like, our equivalent of peasants can afford this much per hour. Their eyes would pop out of their head. An actual literal king would be gobsmacked at that level of availability. Air conditioning, somebody living in, frankly, a lot of the world for nearly all of its history, show them an AC unit and they'll think that you've invented something better than fire. There's obvious use cases for the internet and instant communication and this and that, but we've come a long ways as a species. If we could go at least as much farther again, and not have to be the ones doing it ourselves, and hopefully start erasing some of the racial or socioeconomic biases or so on, kind of smooth that curve out a little bit and give people justice or equity or whatever term you want to associate with it, and also everyone gets brought up along with it. Yeah, why should people be in charge of that?
What if the AI is lying to us? They're white lies. They're for our own good, but it's lying to us.
I mean, is this a white lie in terms of saying that we're happier? Like the stats show we're happier, but we're really not?
No.
You mean this is like, we're implementing this new whatever
French
measure.
fries will kill you. French fries are actually polluted with plutonium, and
Right.
anyone who eats a French fry will be dead in 2 weeks. And by
And then
effectively
people stop
eliminating
eating French fries, but they live longer.
yes, everyone starts living a little longer, and they're a little happier because French fries only make you happy for a little bit.
Sure. I mean, parents do this kind of thing to their kids all the time.
They do.
I
Are you
think
okay
maybe
with the
AI will be the
lying to
parents
society?
to us. Yeah. AI is going to be our parent someday. 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Certainly
There
100.
was the example recently of some AIs refusing to say who won the 2020 U.S. election. You'd pointed this one out.
Yeah. Right. Things are being overtuned in a very careful sort of way. We want to avoid any controversy whatsoever. So, hey, tell me literally anything about politics. No, I won't do that. Not even saying who won an election in the past. We're obviously at a rough point, but this is the worst it's ever going to be. It will continue to get better. Would I put the AI in charge of the government right now? Definitely not. Do I think that there is immense possibility to have a better system augmented with and then possibly eventually replaced with AI? Yeah, I do.
Meta, who I still like to say Facebook. I don't know. I never really bought this Meta name, but Meta, I guess, recently got into a little bit of hot water in the EU with one of its AI bots, or some new regulations are impacting it. Did you hear anything about that?
I did. So there were a series of complaints brought against Meta in a few different EU countries, basically saying We don't want you to be learning from all of these publicly available posts. Now, I'm specifying it's publicly available posts. Meta said we want to train on publicly available data. I am speaking of people who shouldn't be, making the calls on like legal decisions. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know GDPR and other like EU regulations. Maybe this is, and maybe it isn't illegal, but it sounds like it isn't illegal because they were being asked to pause development in consideration of these sorts of things. I suspect, because this is publicly available information, that they'll probably be allowed eventually to start training on this again. I can't imagine it not being the case. What do you think?
I guess we've had some similar examples of this, and I think with Meta, or I still like to say Facebook, in the past where there were issues with it, and then maybe Google as well, linking to news even, and there were rulings that came down and said, hey, if you're going to be linking to these news articles and showing any sort of summary of them, you need to be paying these companies. And I believe
right,
both
you're getting
Meta
content from behind a paywall. I get that, and I
very quickly be like, okay, we won't link to them. Okay, by the way,
right.
not available in the EU. All right, like, joke's on you, buddy. Which I think is sort of the approach they're taking here. Like, okay, yeah, fine. We're still going to ingest all this publicly available information. We're going to have the AI bot, but we're going to say no one in the AI has access to this technology anymore.
No one in
and when
the
you
EU,
come around to it, or enough time passes, it'll still be here. But like, we're not going to play your game. And I guess they're in the financial position where they could take that path. It seems like a nice path to be able to take.
Yeah. So the Irish Data Protection Commission asked Meta, Facebook, to delay training its large language models on content that had been publicly posted on Facebook and Instagram profiles. I suspect they're going to just train on it anyways, not tell anyone, and then the minute that it's been long enough for that someone okays it, they'll release it. But so this request followed a campaign by a advocacy group called None of Your Business, delightful name. They're the ones who filed the complaints against Meta. The founder of that company, or of that group, said, quote, Meta is basically saying that it can use any data from any source for any purpose and make it available to anyone in the world as long as it's done via AI technology. I completely disagree with that statement. That's not, they're using publicly available information for a chatbot. That's not the same thing as any data for any purpose. I can see why you would be concerned about the potential use cases of data, but like, they're not talking about the same thing.
Agreed. They're trying to spin it. And yeah, I agreed. They're just going to do it from the U.S. or from whatever country is most lenient on these laws. This is not an uncommon approach in the world of scraping. When there are legal issues with scraping something, it's not uncommon to reach out to a country where these regulations do not apply, have another company, a third party, scrape the data, which you then purchase from them, which is usually legal and is a commonly exploited loophole for scraping
Just buy it
information.
through a data broker. Yeah.
Correct.
And it wasn't from any of those dirty EU countries. They got the publicly available information from Uganda or wherever.
Or maybe you could just buy it from the NSA.
I know where you're going with this one. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about this, but I guess the former head of the NSA has teamed up with our favorite friend Sam Altman and is now on the board of directors at OpenAI. But don't worry, they're not spying on you. This is all completely normal.
Definitely not.
No.
Let me put the tinfoil hat half on for a second.
Okay.
Obviously, as soon as you see the headline, former head of NSA joins OpenAI board, everyone immediately thinks, because spying. And I would probably say, yeah, of course they are. There's no way they're not. There's no way they're not. And of course, whatever, I'm already on their list. They heard about the thermite thing. There's no way they aren't already via secret, whether they're hacking them or secret back channels or some legal thing that we never heard of, some secret, whatever. That's the half tinfoil on thing. The half tinfoil hat off is they wouldn't be so blatant about that. If they wanted the data, which they do, and they probably are already getting, they wouldn't make everyone aware of it by saying, the guy who used to run this thing is now on that board. This is not the red flag being waved. This, I really think, should be taken as close to face value as possible, which is, this is a person who is extremely highly related to security of cyber stuff associated now with a company that makes cyber stuff. I really think that that's what this is. NSA almost certainly involved in other ways. I don't think that's what this is. What do you think?
I think it's a clear signal to the markets and to the regulators that they are cooperating with the NSA and beyond, and to maybe get off their backs a little bit because, hey, you're getting all your data from us. I believe it was the NSA, or maybe it was the FBI. It was one of the two, who famously had an office at Facebook and was like kind of like randomly discovered, and because they can get access to anything they want in the Twitter files when Elon took over what used to be called Twitter and is now called X. He revealed that they had basically backdoor access to Twitter and reading all of the DMs.
Of course they did.
So I guess it's par for the course.
Yeah. Is this to get regulators to calm down?
Regulators and the markets. Yeah, that would be that's the signal. It's like, hey, we're playing ball here. Mm-hmm. We're doing our part. Maybe back off a little bit.
Well, so you say the markets. I know that Microsoft has a large investment in OpenAI. They're not publicly traded, right?
They aren't publicly traded, but
they're not even.
They kind of are via Microsoft.
Sure. Basically
a
subsidiary, right?
There is we can call it a conspiracy theory or just a theory that. So it's very hard right now for giant companies to acquire other companies because it's quickly labeled as a monopoly and it's blocked. And we've seen several large acquisitions fail recent. The current regulatory environment does not like big companies buying other big companies. Maybe Adobe buying Figma, which blew up, is the most recent example of governments like, no.
Multiple cell phone carriers trying to merge, that keeps getting stopped. We'll never see Ma Bell again.
They've found a loophole, these large companies, which is, what if I just invest in this other company so that I own a controlling share of the company, but I don't actually own the company, and then we, wash each other's backs, and that's believed to be what's happening here.
Exchanging hands. Maybe it's just huge reciprocal agreements or something like that too. We've seen that kind of thing happen.
But Altman, has discussed the possibility of officially sort of transitioning from this nonprofit organization, which they have to be one of, if not the highest profit nonprofit organizations of all time. I don't know. Maybe the Catholic Church has made more money, but
they're no longer open and they're no longer really not for profit.
Yeah, kick that original mission to the curb if they haven't already.
I mean, they seem to have, and there is
they take enough of my money that I'm questioning this nonprofit.
Well, nonprofit doesn't mean non-income.
That's correct.
It's very expensive to run these kinds of models, to train them, to pay the people who are making the things in the first place. But there was an article by The Information that said maybe they are going to drop the guise and just say we're now a for-profit company. Even if they're not going to get officially completely acquired by Microsoft, maybe we start to see an OAI stock ticker, if that isn't already taken.
Yeah, it's interesting. Microsoft's been very clear, and I don't know that I buy it 100%, but they publicly take the position that they're okay if OpenAI goes away tomorrow. They've learned all they need to learn. They can have their own models that are just as good. All their models are already running on their servers. Now, I think that's also kind of I think it's a little defensive and just pounding their chests a little bit to stave off the markets and for the markets not to consider it basically the risk of them relying on OpenAI, even though they do have a controlling. Actually, I don't know if it's a controlling share, but they do have a very large share of the company. I know Elon sued OpenAI over this concept, although he subsequently dropped that lawsuit.
Well, it turns out whenever you have a paper trail saying that you understand the need to work for a direction of profit, and all of the terms that you then sue them for are in your own writing, completely irrefuted, oopsie. Maybe you don't get to do that lawsuit anymore. A lot of people were saying maybe it's just Elon trying to regain control of the thing that he had much more control of in the past. I am probably in that same camp. But also, yeah, whatever the cause, his lawsuit didn't have a leg to stand on as soon as his emails got published. Kind of a shame for him that he had to have his dirty laundry shown to everybody. But I don't know, you run your mouth like that, sometimes people have to kind of show.
Do you think Microsoft cared one way or the other about the Apple integration with, or the coming Apple integration with OpenAI?
That one I find... So if you asked the question of Alphabet, Google, I would say they would probably care more. If Microsoft still had like a major player in the cell phone space, if the Microsoft phones, the Windows phones, had taken off, I think they'd probably care more because that's a big feature getting kind of more integrated. There's already a ChatGPT app on all of the major platforms. Integrating it more integration of AI into more products and services for our computers, for our cell phones. It is happening. I think it's just going to be Microsoft getting more money and OpenAI getting more training data out of this. I don't think they're bent out of shape over it. The folks over at Google are probably pretty chuffed.
Yeah, I know that Microsoft has gone a long way of integrating
chuffed
AI
is please.
features.
Anti-chuffed, excuse me.
I know that Microsoft's gone a long way of integrating AI features into their applications and most recently into their operating system. I'm not entirely sure how much of that is OpenAI versus their own models. But I guess that potentially could be an angle of anger that potentially now Apple's operating system is gaining the same benefits where they sort of footed the bill for it, because they got those shares. Microsoft got those shares by spending a whole lot of money and continues to provide OpenAI with a whole lot of server resources. And if now Apple is effectively benefiting from them, because Apple's not paying OpenAI any money to gain the same competitive edge.
Right.
Maybe, but maybe not.
They're probably getting the training data out of it is the real benefit. People have been, as soon as ChatGPT wasn't just ChatGPT, it was also an API, which I think was from the beginning. People started using that to make training data for their own machine learning models. Apple is almost certain. I cannot imagine that they are not.
Technically against the terms of service.
Sure. Everyone's doing it anyways. There's no way that Apple isn't and hasn't been doing that. And they've been using that on top of other either publicly available and commercially usable LLMs or building their own. Frankly, it doesn't particularly matter. But if they want to have a small model that is capable at very specific little tasks on your phone, but then ship out the big weird questions to OpenAI, I think that's exactly in line with what literally everybody else is doing. I don't see anything unusual about it. Do I see anything wrong with it? No, I don't think so. It's the same as you would do with any circumstance in real life. If you're incapable of doing something, you'll find someone who's more capable at whatever that thing is, and you'll ask them. Oh, I can't rewire my house. I'll have an electrician do it, an expert. Oh, I can't write this paper. I could go out onto Fiverr and find someone who writes essays for a living and have them do it, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we made a small LLM that wasn't capable enough. Send off that request to OpenAI. Same thing. This is just, I think, a proper usage. We're seeing that use case being more normalized as it relates to AI.
We started this discussion talking about the humans entering the AI photography competition. There's been a lot of advances, or we'll call it news, and maybe advances in the AI art world of recent. Have you been following any of those? Any of the dream machines, et cetera, that seem to be coming to market very quickly now?
Yeah. So we've mentioned Sora. I really like. I'm sorry, not Sora. Suno. for AI music.
We have mentioned Sora as well, right? That's OpenAI's video
That's
model.
the video one.
That's still not out.
Still not out. People are making a bunch of versions, and we'll definitely talk about that in a sec. But for what it's worth, Suno, even in the AI music space, they just released a version 3.5, and let me tell you, huge improvement. Really, really a lot better. So big improvements being made there. But right, on the art front, you still have your Midjourneys and so on with these art generators. Call it art, if you will, or art in quotation marks. But when it comes to moving pictures, movies, or maybe not full movies, but clips, there have been things really recently that have come out for taking like hand-drawn pictures and making it into almost like keyframe animation or filling in the blanks. Runway is going to be releasing a new model in just a few days. They had a teaser come out just very recently. Luma, I think, is the name of another one. A lot of space in the moving AI pictures realm recently. Is there anything in there that really caught your eye?
I did hear that our friend Morton is very familiar with Runway ML. But
oh no, not Morton. He's back?
I know. He's not back, but okay. I have it on good authority that he's very familiar with Runway ML.
Okay.
But yeah, these are all systems to generate videos either from text or from an image or image and text.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they're similar. The significance is that they're similar to OpenAI's Sora, which been teased with some incredible. We showed video clips, but that was a while ago.
Allegedly minute-plus long clips that you could do.
Was a while
except
ago.
you can't because no one's allowed to use the darn thing, except for a few like Hollywood insiders.
And now the other players are coming to market, and there are now solutions that are quickly getting better and being developed in public.
Mm-hmm.
I played with
using them. Yeah,
Dream Machine a moderate amount, gave it a number of different photos and prompts, and some were pretty darn good, and some were not. But they're definitely better than Runway. Although again, because Runway ML has announced a new model for generating videos. A new
version
generation
3 alpha.
It's not available yet. I have paid Runway ML accounts. I have a paid Luma Dream Machine account because I just buy all the things.
I have a paid Runway account, and unless I get access to version 3 and like it, I think I need to cancel it because after the last time we talked about it and showed off some of the things that I made, I haven't really used it. It's really interesting. I'm so excited for where the technology is headed. It's not to a point where I like using it yet. Midjourney, I use it all the time. I had some really weird idea, and I want to see what it looks like. I can make that in no time. We're not there with video, unless we are. I've seen some of the results from like Luma, the Runway V3 Alpha looks very impressive. Oh no, we're getting there for sure.
In a future episode, we should go through what AI services we are currently paying for. Because I don't even feel like I know at this point. Like I'd have to go to my credit card bills and like try to reverse engineer what is it exactly that I'm paying for. Because it's a little out of hand. But that might be interesting. Yeah, this has been episode 20. How did we get to 20? 20 episodes.
Time makes fools of us all.
At least we're self-aware, or at least we think that we are, even though some tests of the Turing would suggest otherwise. But another great conversation. If for some reason after 20 episodes you still have not subscribed, well, I'm gonna leave it up to you. This is our Turing test for you, whether or not you can hit that subscribe button. But the
AI says you should subscribe though, so.
Our AI leaders, we've asked.
And rate us 5 stars or thumbs ups or whatever you have as feedback mechanisms available to you.
It's all helping train the model. We are available on all major podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Wherever you find the podcasts, you will find They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by
Daniel Bishop.
And until next time,
They might be self-aware.